You're watching Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. John Schneider has revealed his plan for how to fix the offensive line. A lot of you aren't too happy with John Schneider these days, with how things have gone with said offensive line and the lack of moves that have occurred to fix the problem that's going on with the offensive line. It could get pretty ugly between John Schneider and the 12s these days. And let me put it this way. What you're about to hear from John Schneider, you might not like. We'll tell you what he had to say. We'll react to it coming up in just a bit. Before we do, folks, we are shouting out all of the new Seahawks signings. And today, I want to give a shout-out to DeMarcus Lawrence. If you would like to give a warm welcome to DeMarcus Lawrence to the great city of Seattle, here's what I need you to do. I need you to like today's video. Let's get at least 500 likes on the video. He may be watching, close friend of his, family member. We want him to know that we're rooting on him, that we're glad to have him in Seattle. Hit that like button. Show DeMarcus Lawrence some love. Give him a warm welcome from the 12s to Seattle, and we'll get started with today's show. John Schneider spoke out on his plans to address Seattle's offensive line this offseason. As we sit here in week number 2 of free agency, they have not done much at this point in time to fix the problem at hand. Let's start with our takeaways from what John Schneider had to say. First and foremost, 12s, John Schneider can hear you. He can hear you loud and clear, voicing your concerns. And believe me, I can hear you loud and clear as well. I check the comments. I see what you all say. Everybody's pissed right now, and honestly, rightfully so. And that message has been heard loud and clear by John Schneider. What's he going to do about it? That's a whole different story. But let's start with this from John Schneider. Yeah, the offensive line, definitely, we need to address it. Imagine that. Everybody sees it. I get it with the offensive line stuff, talking about the fans. I mean, I get that. I have empathy for that big time. So he says he has empathy for it. But we are sitting here, and what has been done? Well, not much at this juncture. And the offensive linemen are quickly going away, signing with other teams. Seattle's got money. They're sitting there. And this problem is not getting fixed. As my old friend, Coach Bo, tells me all the time, Tyler, you either got to take a shit or get off the pot. John Schneider, I think we're all tired of this. We've seen this offensive line have issues for a number of years. 2024 was the worst we've ever seen Seattle's offensive line, and you are still not doing anything to address it. And if John Schneider can't figure it out sooner than later, he's going to have to find another job elsewhere. That's what it comes down to. You can bring in a new quarterback. You can bring in new defensive players. But if the biggest issue of this team isn't solved or worked on, why do you have that job? I think that's a fair question to ask. How would you grade John Schneider's offseason so far? Don't get me wrong. I like having Cooper Kupp here. I like having DeMarcus Lawrence, Sam Darnold. That's all good. But if there's no offensive line, none of it matters. Give me your grade. A, B, C, D, or F. Way in the comments section. Let us know. John Schneider says that he wants players to take a visit to Seattle, that the offensive linemen that they're looking at before he commits big money to those players, he wants them to come visit, get a physical, and see if they're worth investing the money in. And one player that was much talked about for Seattle last week that they came very close to signing, but they ultimately did not, was offensive guard Will Fries. And according to John Schneider, one of the reasons they did not get a deal done with Will Fries was that Fries elected not to take a visit to Seattle. He would not meet with the organization and take a physical. He wouldn't meet with anybody for that matter. And now he's going to play elsewhere in 2025. Schneider said this on Will Fries. You know, we were in on a big-time guy who wanted to come in. We wanted him to come in and have a physical on. When you spend that kind of money on a player, we wanted him to visit. He didn't want to visit. So what does that mean? Do we just go ahead and start panicking or paying other guys who aren't quite as good? It's understandable, but, John Schneider, you signed other guys that didn't visit. Cooper Kupp didn't take a visit. Sam Darnold didn't take a visit. DeMarcus Lawrence didn't take a visit. Why? Tell me this, John. Why do the offensive linemen have to visit, but not some of these other players? DeMarcus Lawrence, plenty of health concerns. You didn't need a physical from him. Cooper Kupp, plenty of health concerns. Didn't need a physical from him. Why is the standard different for offensive linemen that you expect to come in, take a visit, and get a physical, but not other positions? To me, that doesn't add up. I see where he's coming from, but why does that rule not apply across the board, especially with older, injury-prone players that you brought in? To me, that's a little fishy, and that sounds like a lame excuse on the part of John Schneider. More to come here on Seahawks Today here in just a moment, but first let's tell you about today's sponsor. That is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite basketball players with players from baseball, hockey, sport, esports, and much more. The app is really easy to use. To create a lineup, all you have to do is pick more or less on a few players' stats for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. We have some great college basketball coming up in the next couple of days. The tournament is coming up. You know what I'm talking about, folks. And here's my lineup for Thursday. Let's just hit the more on all of them. Johnny Broom, John P., Joe B., those guys, we're going the more on all of them. I get a freebie with just half a point on Johnny Broom. He's the best player in college basketball. I'll take that. And then more on those other guys as well. If I put $20 down and both these hit, that can turn into $60 on Prize Picks. Play along with me, prizepicks.com/SailAtS. Download the app today. Use code SailAtS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is, folks, code SailAtS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Check them out. You'll be glad you did. Schneider also emphasized that when it comes to this offensive line, he wants to make smart and patient decisions for the players that they bring in. Schneider's saying this: we've got to make smart decisions, smart, patient decisions. We usually don't jump in to free agency that begins each March that quick. We've made some decisions in the past that weren't the best for the organization because we weren't patient. And you for that, because we want to be a team that is acquiring all throughout the year. Now, that sounds great. I understand where John is coming from here, but the clock is ticking. All right? This was the fastest that the offseason has ever began in the National Football League. With the trades that were made early on, with the re-signings, you may compare it to the past and say, well, we're going to learn from it and not sign players too quickly. But based on the way free agency is gone, you blink, and there's not a whole lot left at that point. So, while John, I understand that you're trying to learn from your past mistakes, but in the process, you're hurting yourself because you are limiting your options of who is still available by letting time continue to be wasted in that sense. Mike McDonald also talked about the offensive line this past week. He said this: obviously, the offensive line is a critical part of our football team. we're on record saying this, but we believe in our guys. We've got an opportunity to become a great offensive line. You know, I'll say this. I think it's realistic for Mike Macdonald on the offensive line to say that he believes in their guys. They got an opportunity to be a great offensive line. That's all true. They can be that. But you actually have to do something. You have to invest and make some changes. And we're still sitting here wondering when that change is going to come, when they're actually going to do what they need to do when it comes to this O-line. Who's the player you want the Seahawks to sign here in free agency? Give me a name in the comment section that comes to mind that you'd like to see in Seattle when it's all said and done. Weigh in and let us know. The last point that Schneider made was that he wants to put this team in a position beyond just free agency, but into the season of having financial flexibility. Although Seattle has cash to spend at their disposal at this point in time, he doesn't want to spend it all. That way they can have the chance to potentially change some things later on, whether it's an injury or for players underperforming. Here's what he said. You can compensate for your deficiencies, whether it's injuries or underperformance at certain positions. So when we get to the trade deadline at the end of October, we can say, Carlos Dunlap, yeah, we're going to take him here. We need to be able to fix your team. And you have to have discipline in your spending. I get it. We all want it. We all want things right now. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. Bottom line, John, stop being cheap. I get it. I get it to an extent, what John is saying here, that they want to have that flexibility. But with seeing the inaction, with not seeing the investments we're looking for in the offensive line, all of that, especially that final point, just sounds like lame excuses. And who's to say they're actually going to spend that money later in the season, that they're going to make the investments that they need to, that things are going to change? I'm not so confident right now. Folks, we'll continue to follow free agency and keep you posted on everything going on with your Seattle Seahawks. You need to subscribe, stay up to date. We got you covered each and every day on the channel. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.